So today we are going to explore effects in After Effects. Um, in After Effects we have a huge variety of effects that we can use in a pre-comp or a single layer, whether it is text layer or whatever it is. And let's say that we have multiple number of layers, contains multiple number of, let's create a shape layer, and let's create, I'm sorry, uh, I'm going to create a shape layer, then I'm going to create a text layer. So we have all these different layers, and let's say I want to apply an effect on top of every layer, all the layer that I have in this pre-comp. That I can do by creating a new adjustment layer. Adjustment layers are basically empty layers on top of which you can apply any effect, almost all the effects. So let's say I want to crank up the saturation or change the hue or whatever it is. You can do that on an adjustment layer. You can mask an adjustment layer. That means only this particular area is going to affect, or maybe you want to subtract the adjustment layer, or you want to add some feathering on it. You can do that. So you can see the effect I have added just now, the random effects, that is only affecting the mask out areas, because I have added that effect on a adjustment layer and I have masked that. So this is how you can also, before starting the effects, this is how you can also apply effect in After Effects by using adjustment layer. And when you are gonna do it, obviously when you want to apply the same effect on top of multiple number of single layers, so if adjustment layer is going to affect uh, you know is going to apply effect on layer underneath this layer. So if you have something on top of this layer, that is not going to affect by the adjustment layer. And so let's get rid of all this thing and let's start with effects. So how we can explore the effect, we can access the effects from effect window, which is this one, effects and presets. You can create your own effect and save it as a preset. That can be multiple number of effects, and I'm coming to that later on. And let me show you. Let's say I'm going to add a level and I'm going to change the maybe color or whatever it is. Then I'm going to use maybe blur. So maybe I will what should be in the adjustment layer. No, that doesn't matter. I'm just showing you how to create presets. I can create a preset of this level right now. That is going to be my own preset, whatever I'm going to give it. Now I can save you know multiple number of effects, and that will save these values that I have changed. That will save that. I can apply this effect to any layer in any other composition. So right now I can just copy this. Let's create a new layer. Let's import a new footage. So let's say this green screen footage. So I can right now I can actually copy this effect, and actually let me apply multiple number of effects, so that will be very distinguished. See if, let me add a fast blur, and I'm going to add some blur. So what I've done is I have made the footage a little bit contrasty, and I have added a simple blur in it. So I can just select all, control A, select all these effects, or whatever effect I want. I can hit control C to copy it, and I can go to this layer and I can paste it on this layer also. So you can see all these effects have been applied to it. So I can copy and paste in any copy and paste effects from one layer to another layer if that is in that same exact project. I can create different composition and paste the effect on it too. Okay, so you can see these are two different compositions. Okay, I can paste on it, but when saving presets becomes very useful is you know when you have you can save your preset and store in your hard disk, and you can apply that effect on another project. So let's say I have applied these two effects and I want to save these values as save this thing as a preset. So let's select both of the thing and drag it and drop it here, and if I do that, then it will ask me to add a name. So maybe, and the by default directory is the documents, review, After Effects and user presets, and yes, you can save it. So let's call it test1, and I can save it like this, and you can see what happened right now. So let's delete this effect and close this thing, and in the animation preset there is one tab called animation preset, and if I go there, then I have this user preset option which was not there before and which have been created for me, and there is this effect called test1. I can just drag and drop of this on top of this layer, and you can see that effect is applied here. So that's how we can save multiple number of effects. Let's say you have created a particular look for your film with by applying some effects, and you can store that. Let's say this effect only you need to apply for scene 1. You can specify that on the name, and you can apply that. So this is a very useful option, and you can also hopefully you can delete it. If you cannot delete it from here, you can delete it from the actual place where it is saved. So before starting it, that's how you can store your effects presets. Now let's go to effects menu, and if you select the layer, then you can access the effect menu. If you don't select layer, you cannot access all these effects. So select the menu, select the layer and go to menu, and you can get all this effect from here, or you can do the same thing from here also. So I'm not going to, there is like thousands of effects in After Effects. I'm not going to explore each and everything, that's not possible, but I'm going to show you very useful ones that I use often. And I'll start with fast blur. I can type the name of the effect here, and that will appear, or obviously the fast blur option effect will be under the blur menu, and from there there is a lot of different type of blurs, but I'm going to choose fast blur. And fast blur is basically the updated version of Gaussian blur. It renders quickly, and the difference between fast blur and Gaussian blur is I'm showing you. So this is the fast blur. This is basically mix up all the pixels and create a blurry look for us. And if we apply Gaussian blur, it does pretty much the same thing, and you have to crank up the value a little bit more than fast blur. And let's apply the same value for both of the blurs, and hopefully I'm just going to take a snapshot of it, and let's see the difference. You can see it's exactly same. The difference is there's two difference. In fast blur you have this option repeat H pixels. Now blur effect, what it does is it mix up blurs pixels, and in the edges of a layer there is no pixel, there is some empty area, so it mix up with the alpha channel, the empty area. So if you turn on the checker view, this view, then you can see there was empty areas outside of the layer, and that this effect have mixed up that alpha information also. So If you turn on the repeat edge pixel option, you can actually uh, turn that thing off, but with Gaussian blur you're not going to get that if it repeat edge pixel. And fuzz blur is very fast to render, so that's why you can reject Gaussian blur. But this option is there because let's say you have created a project file in, let's say, 5 years ago in After Effects, or 10 years in After Effects. Fuzz blur was not there at that time, and you want to open that same project file in After Effects, and then you have the Gaussian blur option for that. And also this blur is applying for the horizontal and the vertical value. You can change that to particular thing, like you want to blur only vertical horizontal pixels or the vertical pixels, you can do that. And there is a huge number of effects here, and that you can explore. Maybe I mean I don't know, the directional blur and all those things that you have also have in Photoshop. You can fake motion blur like this if you want, because it's gonna render very fast than uh, motion blur. So all these options you have there. Then there is another very useful option, which is the camera lens blur, and that actually mimics mimics actual camera lens, out of focus blur, the camera lens blur. Yes, this one. So you can see what happens when you, let's add some higher value, and there you also have the repeat edge pixel option. It's actually you know, create that kind of round bokeh type of thing that actually happens in um, cameras. So, and you can change the shape of the blur also, like hexagonal, pentagonal, and all this thing. And there is other options too, like highlights. If you want to create highlights, like when if you shoot in daylight, then this kind of hotspots get created. So let's add 25, then you get that. And this is a very useful way to mimic actually this kind of realistic camera lens look. And there was an image for night street, and if I apply the, hopefully it will happen, let's see. So I'm going to hit control alt control F to fit to the window, and I'm going to effect the use the camera lens blur. And if I crank it up, you will see some, okay, this is too much. You can see this kind of shapes, bokeh shapes. So so by using this effect, let's say you are using a green screen shot, and where outside of the window you have out of focus elements, then you can do that. You can apply that. You have something in foreground, you want to make that out of focus, then you can use this camera lens blur. And there is another very useful option for camera lens blur. Let me show you. You can actually if you apply camera lens blur, you can actually assign a blur map on it. And what blur map is basically, um, you can actually, this when you are working with 3D render passes, then you have a depth pass, where you have z depth information in black and white. And on those cases you can actually determine which object should be in focus and which object should be out of focus, and that information you can add from here. So here we don't have that kind of thing, but let me show you how to do that in this, let's say in this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a black solid, and on top of it I'm going to create a white solid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the white solid. I'm going to turn off the black solid and turn on the white solid, and I'm going to create a mask. Let's create a ellipse like this. I want these areas to be out of focus because these areas are in the distance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit F to get the mask feather option, and I'm going to feather out the edges. And let's say that this area is going to be, these white areas are going to be out of focus, and these black areas are going to be in focus. So what I need to do is I need to select both of these two layers and hit Shift Control C to create a precomp out of them. So you can call it blur map, and now I can just turn it off and can select this layer, and let's add some blur in it. Right now it's blurring everything, so I'm going to assign this blur map on it, and then what is going to happen, it's going to blur only this, the white areas, okay, because that should be in the distance. An effect, yes, I'm just faking the z depth information, okay. So that's what you can do by using that. You can do also from, if you go to the invert option is also there, you can see either one thing you can do is you can go into that effect and you can change the colors, or what we can do is you can invert blur map from here. So that will do the thing. Now this placing focus, okay. So let's leave the blur effect and go to, let's go to the channel effect, and from there one very useful option is the invert. And right now it's not really, but in these cases we can invert it. Let's say you have black lines that you have drawn in white paper, you want to change it, you want to make it black surface and white drawings, and you can use the invert effect. And other things I'm just going to skip right now. Let's go to color correction. In color correction we have few effects like let's delete this one, and color correction, and there we have this effect called black and white. And if you apply black and white, now the difference between normal desaturation and black and white is, here you can, you know, choose different color channels and set the values of gray tone, like this. Let's say the red area, these are the red area, I have a lot of red areas and I want them to be a little bit more darker, I can do that. So nowadays when they, you know, you see some black and white films and they color grade with this kind of tools, you can actually control these values. Let's uh, with saturation it will basically make it desaturated thing, but here it's when you do nothing, it is this, that kind of desaturated look. Then we have these controls. Let's say these yellow areas, those are the bright areas, I want them to a little bit darker, that I can do. Now we have this, all this dark color informations also. And you know, before going into before exploring all the other tools, let me show you a very useful option. At first you can actually assign mask. I think I have shown you this thing earlier. You can actually assign mask to a particular color, the particular effect. That means, let's say that I want to black and white only this character, not the entire thing, or the vice versa. So what I can do, I can select this region like this, and you know, I'll just create a feather like this, and I will actually invert the mask. And now I want to apply an effect on this wall, okay. So let's say that I want to affect the hue saturation effect, and which is this one. And before applying this effect, what I can do, I can assign a let's change the color at first. So let's change the color like this, make it yellow. And now I want to apply this effect only to the wall. So for that, when you apply some effect in the effects in this option, drop down option of our layer, we get this effect option, and then from there we can access all the effects that we have assigned to it. And there is this option called um, compositing option, and from there you can actually this plus with by hitting on this plus icon, you can actually enable masks for the particular effect. And that I'm going to do. I have only one mask, so you can see what is happening here. This effect is only applied to the masked area, this mask 1 area. Okay, and let's make it 0, and let's change on only the reds. So by using this hue saturation effect, you can change any particular color channel, like only the reds are going to be changed. You can see these yellows are not changing right now, so you can do that. Okay, so this thing you can do with any other. Let's say I am let's say I need to add any other effect, which is, let's say I want to blur this particular area. So I'm going to apply the fast blur again. So I'm going to apply the fast blur. By default it is going to apply all over the image, but I am going to create a ellipse here, and I want this effect to apply on this mask 2, the second mask. So I'm going to go to the fast blur option. So let me show you actually how you can find that. You can expand this layer option, and from there you can expand the effect option. We have two effect, hue saturation and fast blur. Let's expand the fast blur. You can see if you assign a mask on it, it shows here, and you can turn on and off those layers, those effects from here also. So let's expand the hue saturation, and from there add the mask. You can see by default it is choosing mask 1, the first thing. I am going to select the mask 2, and the blur is only going to be affected on this area. Let's add some feather, hit F, and you can feather out the edges. Okay, so that's how you can actually apply multiple effects on a single layer and assign masks to them to affect a different region of your layer. Okay, so let's delete both of the effect and both of the masks. Now let's explore the next layer. I have shown you the black and white effect, and then the change color. And if you go to this change color effect, you can directly change one color to, okay, you can directly change this color to some other color, and you can actually change the hue and lightning. I think I don't know why I have added this effect. So let's go to the different thing. HLS color balance, which is basically you can choose either of these, either the hue saturation and the HLS color balance. And again, this is the same thing like Gaussian blur and fast blur. Earlier days we only had this effect, which is the HLS, hue saturation lightning, HLS, and you can change the hue saturation lightning for the lightness for the entire layer. But if you use this hue saturation effect rather than the HLS, the hue saturation effect, then you get this all these three parameters. Also you get this option. From here you can select a particular color channel and only change the hue of that particular color channel. But only downside of this effect is you cannot key separately all these values. All these values you cannot key separately. You have only one key option, and that will change the entire thing. That's like a global key type of thing. So but if you are gonna use hue saturation effect, the HLS effect, color balance effect, then you get all these three: hue, saturation, lightness, keyframes, uh, keyable values. And let's go to the levels. So I have shown you the basic the use of level in After Effects. I hope that you guys remember it and how necessary this effect is to do any kind of color correction or compositing job in After Effects. So this is basically the maximum dark. You can see there is some gap here, so we don't have any maximum dark in this entire layer. You can crank up the darks, that will basically choke out the dark areas. And there is a lot of maximum white, because we have this all these whites, you can increase them too. And we have this gamma or the middle tone, you can change it to darker. Most um, more and more dark gray areas are becoming dark like this, and the opposite. And then we have this maximum black, you can change it to grayer tone. And maximum white, you can change it to darker gray tone. That you can do. You have some burned out areas, you can apply this effect, then assign a mask to it only for only this area. Then it is not going to dark out all the other parts that you don't want. And then we have this RGB. This is the RGB mode, basically that's affecting the entire lightness of the layer. And you can change, you can apply this effect to you can change it to red channel, and from there you can actually, this is a very good sky replacement trick. So you have this kind of burned out skies in your layer. Then what you can do, you can, if you go to the red channel, and the opposite of red in color spectrum is this color, the cyan color. So that means if you crank down this value, then you get this kind of cyanish type of color that helps you to restore the burned out white areas in your footage. So this is not the right example, but you can get that idea. And if you change this value in the darker tones, you get reds. You can see that in the darks only you are getting this red. And the same thing with the opposite thing here. You can change the darkness, you can change the you can maximize the effect of red in the middle tone like this, or in the opposite you have the cyanish tone. You can do it, you can change it. And then let's hit reset. And then in the green we have, you can crank up the green in the middle tone, or the opposite magenta color. And the same thing is going to happen here. If you crank down this, the reds, the maximum whites are going to become magenta-ish, and if you change this value, then the maximum darks are going to become greener. And same thing with the blue. And this effect I use quite a lot. In my film I have used this kind of color color palette. In the darks I have added some blue, in the white, in the lights I have added some yellow, and in the middle tone I have added a little bit red. Yes, so this is basically what I use quite a lot. So in the dark I don't like that kind of absolute black areas. Okay, so this was level. And after that we have photo filter. Just like Photoshop, we have the same, all the same colors. In photo filter we can crank up the value like this. Let's make it like this. Then we have this option like Photoshop preserve luminosity. This is basically preserving the luminous, the brightness option of the actual footage, and you can turn it off, then it will become like this. And you can try all the different colors, or you can apply a custom color. Okay, let's tilt it. And then we have tint. There is two effect, which is tint and tritone, these two things. and the vibrance, that is also these three effects we are going to check it right now. So if we apply the tint effect, that is basically uh, like black and desaturating the image, and the difference here is you can change the maximum dark and the maximum light color. So let's say the maximum dark color, I want it to be little bit reddish. This is what I want as the darkest color, and let's say the maximum light color, I want that to be a little bit yellowish. So with these two colors, the gray tone is going to change with these two colors. And also you can change the amount of how much this effect is affecting the entire footage. So you can crank it down, so that is going to create a blend between the tint effect and the original image. And also you can go crazy and do something like this if you need. So again, crank it down. And after that we have tritone. Tritone is basically gives you another middle tone to change. So let's make the dark color something like this, bluish, and the light color maybe something like this light color. Then we have this a middle color. Then the middle color you can change it to anything you want, and you can make it saturated or desaturated, however you like it. So you get three colors to deal with. Then you get the same option to blend with the original footage. Okay, this option you have. So after that we have vibrance. Vibrance is basically what you need to use to desaturate or saturate a filter. Basically, if you need to uh, make your footage more saturated than you actually have, let's say you are shooting in a raw format and you are getting a very desaturated look, then you need to crank up the saturation value of your footage. Then actually, rather than using the HLS, the hue saturation effect, you should use the vibrance effect. Vibrance actually do not burn out your colors. That gives you vibrance gives you a very soothing color. If you add in this footage is basically very bright, so let's try on a different uh, footage, maybe on this green footage. So if you apply the vibrance effect, then what happens is it create, if you can see the vibrance, amount of vibrance is 100, but it is not burning out any creating, no, it's not creating any hotspot or that kind of thing. And there is this saturation is basically to crank up the values even more. But if you use the, let's say, color balance and do the same thing, you can see what happens. So that's why you should use vibrance if you need to add some saturation in your footage. This vibrance effect was not there, let's say 8 to 10 years ago. This vibrant effect was not there. There is a different vibrance is much more smarter to understand to get you very much more soothing look. Otherwise saturation kind of burns out the entire thing. After that, let's try for all the animators, this is a very useful set of tools, which is the distort menu. Under the distort menu you get a lot of effect, and let's explore few of them. Let's delete this one, and the first one we are going to use is the bulge. And if you add this bulge layer, it's going to, you can apply it like a lens, magnifier glass type of thing, and you can change it like this, or like eye popping out type of thing. And then we have this option for the horizontal and vertical value, and you can see the amazing thing is all these values are keyable. So and you can change the position. You can also select this handle and change it like this, and you can key this effect like this. Also you have the bulginess, height of the bulginess. uh, you can uh, taper the radius, that is basically that thing. No, not really concave frame rate, it's the smoother type of, it gives you smoother edges. Or and if you see what kind of rendering you want to see, the high or low. This is basically the bulge effect. And after that, let's use the CC lens effect. This effect I use quite often, and let me show you why. I don't use it like this. I make it 500, the maximum value, and if you do that and make this value 0, that basically makes it that basically makes no change. But to get the barrel distortion type of thing, fake that kind of camera lens effect, you can use this effect like this. So let's make it 100, and you can actually get this kind of concave figure. Okay, so I'm just pushing too much. Or you can go to the negative direction also, let's say TV screen or whatever it is. Huh. Let's create a grid, because we have this grid. And on top of it, if we use the CC lens, then you can see the distortion. Okay, so this is basically it. And after that, let's use CC page turn. Maybe you are gonna need it. This why is the CC lens के नीचे? So you get this thing and you can turn the page. And the thing is, yes, obviously this value is animatable. And another thing is you can change this light direction. You can change quite a lot of things. Let's say the next page, that is going to be this green screen footage. You can set the back footage also, uh, back page footage also. And you can change the transparency on all this thing, light direction. You can remove it, or you can fold radius, you can change it. And opacity, you can make it complete opaque. Or the page color, you can actually change it to something else. That is the basically blending thing. And front page, back page. Okay, check all these things. So let's delete this thing. After that, we have CC smear, and if you use this effect, you can like smudging type of thing you can do. And so you can change the radius. In the compositing, these few options there is that you can use to create this kind of thing when you are gonna need like a special effect type of thing. हाँ हाँ So this is CC smear, and basically all the values are animatable, of course. So after that we have CC split, and if you apply CC split, you get these two uh, handles that you can organize, and then you can split them. Zipper type of thing. And yes, and you get then CC split 2, and here you are going to just get two options for upper and lower, mouth or eyes, that kind of thing. After that, CC corner pin, this one is very useful for you know screen replacement and that type of thing, and this is called the CC corner pin. You can make this, you can actually select this corner after applying this effect, and you can create this kind of perspective distortion. And let's say you have a computer monitor and you want to place a footage display on it, so you can do that. You can just on that footage you can just match the corners, and you can place this footage like this. Hmm? Hmm. And उसके बाद displacement map. Oh, another very useful thing. चलो displacement map. हाँ, displacement map. Uh, I mean, with this effect you can create a lot of things. There is lot of possibilities. I am just showing you one of them. Uh, so let's open this image of the baby. Baby. Oh, I have shown you that option. Is there, right? हिलने वाला. Oh, okay, बताया था. So what you can do is you can apply this effect called the displacement map. These basically use a gray tone, light and dark information as the displacement amount of this effect. So right now it's not applied on anything, so it's taking the gray information from this particular image. So let's add another image. So we have created this thing. So let's move it. Let's select the mask and move it here. So we have this black and white information which is called the blur map composition, and we can simply Control C, copy it and paste it here. Okay, stuck. Okay, I can paste it here, and let's actually hit Control Shift Alt Control F to fit with the window, and I can use this light and dark information as the distortion information of these layers, this effect called displacement map. I can change the displacement map layer to blur map, and now if I change this, okay, it is actually using the actual size of the layer. So this is a little bit out of the topic, but I am showing you how to fix that. What I can do is I can actually create another, Shift Control C, leave all attribute, and I can go there. I can open this. I can copy this value 1667 2500. I can change the composition to that 2500 1667, and I can actually make it fit to window. Now again fit to window, and if I go there and I can choose map blur comp 1, now what is going to happen, it's going to actually distort the image based on the value, the gray value of that black and white image that I had. So by using this option, what I can do right now, I have this display. I have already made this image uh, of displacement map of the child, of this baby layer. Okay. Um, with an assumption of where the which portion of the face is going to be closer to the camera and which is going to be the far away from the camera, and I can turn it off. Now I can assign this map, which is the face displacement, and now what I can do, let's make it 0 and 0. Now I can change this like this, so I can create a fake movement like this. A lot of nowadays, a lot of documentaries and all that kind of TV shows use this displacement effect. Okay, I have, so I can do the opposite thing. Now if I hit render, then it's gonna look like it's moving. And anytime you can change the gray map, and the information is going to be going to change here also. वो तो बस फोटोशॉप में जाके कैसे हम करके कि नाक थोड़ा आगे होगा तो उसको थोड़ा वाइट डालना है. So this is basically displacement map, and after that globe glow आऊँगा. After displacement, then we have mesh warp, and mesh warp is going to be another very useful tool for you guys to quickly fix few of your drawings, or add a little bit puppet type of animation. With mesh warp, always use the quality of 10, and you can change this number of columns and rows. That is basically gives you handles to control this image, and you can set on your based on how much you need. Then you can select these corners, and you can mesh it like a you can change it like a mesh, and obviously this value is keyable, so just create a key on mesh distortion, and you can change it to whatever you need. So you can imagine the possibilities with this thing. If you need to do a little bit fix with your drawings and all this, whatever you are gonna do, that can be done with this effect. And after that, let's go to the mirror. And if you apply that, you can create a mirror like this. You can change the position of this thing and create a mirror. Okay. And then let's go to transform. This is another very useful effect. A lot of time, let's say you have already applied a lot of keyframes on the position of a particular layer, or any kind of transformation parameters like rotation, position, scaling. You have applied keyframe on it. Now after doing the entire thing, you are seeing that you need to change the entire footage a little bit, and that you cannot do that because you have already applied keyframe on the position. Now if you change the position in a particular frame, it will create another keyframe, so it's not gonna do the thing for you that you want to do. So for that, you can use the transform as an effect. It is going to give you all the transformation value as an effect. So from here also you can change the anchor point, you can change the position. Okay, you can change the position, you can change the anchor point. Let's change the anchor point to somewhere here. Now you can actually rotate it from here. So and you can scale it like this. After doing the entire animation and whatever, you can change it. You can add skew, you can change the skew direction, you can add rotation, you have opacity option here also. You can change the shutter angle. I know why it is there, I haven't used it. So this effect you are gonna use quite a lot. Then you have that very much important effect, which is turbulence displacement. When you are gonna use this is basically how it works. So let's add a keyframe in the evolution. Evolution is basically this thing. It generates a animation for you, cycle animation, and you can change the, yes, you can use it for a lot of things. I mean, I'm showing you. So you can change the size to, let's say, 20. That is basically change the size of the distortion. You can change the amount and you can key these values. So if I do that, you can change these values, you can change the amount, and then you can try different type of turbulence, which is another one is bulge, and let's make the size 100, and that kind creates a bulgy type of effect. And you are not seeing a lot of things because the same thing you're gonna see with the fractal noise effect. I'm going to show you later on. So uh, this kind of, these are just different type of noise pattern. And when you're gonna use it, you're gonna use it on, I don't think I have a animation line rendering, or this option with this thing I can show you. This was a rough drawing of Ashita's film. So if I use this turbulence noise, it is looking like this. But so let's add the evolution keyframe at first. Let's make it 3 evolution. So it is a little bit slow. I'm going to add much more value onto this later on. What I can do right now, I can change the size to, let's say, 1. Then you can see what happened here. With or without, you get this kind of jittery lines. Let's you make the size 2 and amount maybe 100. So this is, I mean, exaggeration. So with this thing you kind of get this kind of jittery effect. Let's make the amount 40 actually, and maybe 1, no, maybe 3 was enough. So what I can do right now is actually I can animate it, and it's going to create a jittery effect, and it's going to, you can also create a whole type of jittery thing, that like if I add a keyframe on the amount, and let's say after 3 frames I want to make it 0, and what I'm going to make them toggle hold keyframe, and now that's going to create hold keyframe. Like there is no suddenly it's going to go to that value of distortion. Now what I can do is I can create a simple expression, I don't know, loop t then it's going to, the jittering is going to happen for the entire animation. So this is another use of turbulence displacement effect. Okay, and also what you can do is this kind of thing I have also used in my film. So it gives a little bit life onto static drawing. And another thing what you can do is, let's make the background white, and I'm going to create a line. I'm going to create um, okay, let's use the white solid, and on it I'm going to create a circle, and then I'm going to use this stroke effect. And if I do that, then I can actually add a black stroke or whatever color I need. I can create a stroke like this. I think I have shown you this thing earlier. So what I can do, yes, I can grow this line and all this thing I can do, but at the same time I can actually let's do another thing. Let's create another uh, mask like this. Okay, sorry, mask like this. And for this mask I'm going to assign another effect as I've shown you earlier. So that is going to be choker. So I can add a simple choker, and that is basically going to choke the alpha value. And I need to actually assign this simple choker effect with the mask 2, and I'm going to assign mask 2 from the compositing option. I'm going to assign mask 2, and now you can see I can actually change the value like this. And also I can go to the feathering option. For the second mask I can add some feathering on it. Now what I can do, so let's turn this effect off right now. So I can use the turbulence displacement, and right now it's something like this. If I go to the twist, it's going to be something like this. If I go to bulge, it's going to be something like this. So I'm just going to go to turbulence, and I'm going to change the size to, let's say, 1, and the amount something like this, and I'm going to add complexity of 10. So complexity of 10. Now after that I can turn on this thing, the choker. Okay, so the feathering option I need to make it something like 10. Okay, it's not giving me a smooth result, but I will figure out a way to get it. So anyway, maybe the brush size 6, and this is what you can do. You can animate this thing. So this is basically a way to get this kind of jittery line. Anyway, so it was not a perfect example, but this one was. So let's go to the next thing, which is a few other things. नहीं एक साथ कवर करने दो, याद तो नहीं रहेगा पर रिकॉर्डेड रहेगा, राइट? हाँ, ओके, डिस्टॉर्शन के बाद छोड़ते हैं। इसके बाद कीइंग है, मैट इफेक्ट से, नॉइज एंड ग्रेन और क्या क्या ग्लो वगैरह वो सब है। सो डिस्टॉर्शन के बाद और एक दो चीज़ ही है। देन वी हैव ट्विरल, एंड विद दिस थिंग व्हाट आई कैन डू। हाँ क्या? हाँ, रिकॉर्डेड मैं तो शेयर ड्राइव में डालता हूँ। लास्ट 2 दिन का शेयर ड्राइव में डाला नहीं, वो डाल देता हूँ। और यूट्यूब में भी डाल दूंगा. Then we have this thing. Anyway, so after that, चलो उसके बाद क्या आता है, wave warp. This is going to be very useful one. Wave warp. So you can create wave like this. So make it 200, and you can add direction, and then you can change the phase. And if you are not even gonna change the phase, it is going to automatically create a wavy thing for you. Acha, let's create a rectangular shape. Okay, shape, and maybe I'm going to add uh, the grid effect on it. So now if I use the wave warp tool, and then you can see that you can create a, let's change the height to, and I haven't added anything. I have just changed the height and width of the distortion, and it will automatically create a wave warp for you. So like a flag, you can change the speed from here, or you can add the phase, like you can change the direction of the rotation. I've just changed the direction of the rotation. ठीक है. So, or you can change the phase change, that you can also animate, or you can make the speed higher like this. हाँ 90 कर दिया. हाँ 90 पूरा फ्लैट साइड में होगा, तो ये फास्ट हुआ. हाँ 45 डिग्री है, तो डाल देता हूँ 45. एक कॉर्नर में होगा वो. ठीक है. ठीक है, तो ये हुआ डिस्टॉर्शन. आज यहीं पे छोड़ दे, या फिर नेक्स्ट लेयर में, नेक्स्ट इफेक्ट में जाए. क्या छोड़ देते हैं.